Hey guys, welcome back to Notes from the Progressive Revolution. This is Amelia. I wanted to take a moment right now to talk about Joe Biden's vice presidential pick. Um, I know that we don't even really know if Joe Biden is going to be the nominee or if that's all just talk, that Cuomo's going to take his place, or if they're going to want someone else. I mean, maybe it's my wishful thinking that Joe Biden couldn't possibly be the nominee. The prospect of the next however many months, just the news being Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, just nightmare. It's like Godzilla versus King Kong. They're both terrible and they're both destroying the city. Like, no matter what, the city is being destroyed and they're fighting each other, sure, but the people are still being crushed underneath both Godzilla and King Kong, and also the falling buildings and everything. Anyways, so obviously the logical point, the logical choice for Joe Biden's vice president is Bernie Sanders. He is the other candidate who earned the second most delegates, has a huge, massive base of support, is the choice of the Democrats' base. Joe Biden is looking to excite his campaign. He's looking to, I think he's trying to win this thing. I actually don't think the Democrats are trying to win this thing. And this is obviously why he's not going to pick Bernie Sanders. And I think that this is why the media has created this idea that we all want a woman vice president. We need a woman above all other things. The people that I've seen on Joe Biden's shortlist for vice president are Gretchen Whitmer, who is the centrist corporate Democrat governor of Michigan, who beat out progressive icon Abdul El-Sayed when they were running back in 2018. So don't like Gretchen Whitmer. Then there is Elizabeth Warren, who has proven herself to be a liar, who has thrown the progressive movement under the bus numerous times, clearly, bought in and played into the painful and harmful Bernie bro narrative. I mean, we're done with Liz, but she would be the best choice if they even choose her. And then Stacey Abrams, who, as I've covered in other pieces, is not a progressive. She's just another corporate Democrat and another person who, in Joe Biden's example, just works with Republicans to pass Republican legislation. And none of these women are progressive and even hold a candle to Bernie Sanders, but because they're women, we're supposed to stop caring about the fact that Bernie is obviously the logical choice to be the vice president and go, oh yeah, no, but we want a woman. Doesn't matter what she stands for, doesn't matter what her policies are, just as long as there's a woman in the vice presidential seat, that's great. It's like, you know what, actually, honestly, we already kind of got a female vice president in Veep, and she was pretty legendary and hilarious. So why, like, again, if it's all just symbolic, if we just want to see representation, like, female vice president already exists. There's a great TV show about it, won a lot of Emmys. People really do love seeing a woman vice president. Can't that just be enough? I personally hate it that people care so much. I don't hate it. I am annoyed by it. I am irked by it. I try not to hate anything. And I try not to say hate because I don't want to polarize, okay? I think it is unhelpful to just care about a candidate's identity, whether they're a woman, whether they're a woman of color, et cetera, et cetera. Because when we choose a woman just because she's a woman, then I feel like we hurt the women's movement, women's cause. Feminism is advocacy and belief in the equal treatment of the genders. And the moment we start playing a game where we're like, we want this person to be in this slot because she is a woman, then that hurts us because, again, we want to take gender out of the decision-making process. We want it to be understood that this woman was hired, yeah, not because she's a woman, but because she's talented and because this is what she stands for. These are the issues that she believes in. This is her policy. This is her record. We trust her. The fact that she's a woman isn't even the main consideration, which is the world that I'm striving to live in. Because when we say that we chose women just because they're women, then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter her actual talent levels. Like, for instance, I, as a writer for TV, the last time I was hired, I was told, and most of the time that I get hired, I get told that I'm being hired because, they're kind of a boys club and they want kind of more of a woman's voice in there. And I think, I'm a funny person. I'm I think I'm flat out funny. I would love to be hired because I'm funny, not because I'm a woman. And I think that when we say we want to hire women for this or have a woman in this role and that role, sometimes that even is reductive for women because then when they get hired in that role, we all know it was because she was a woman, not because she was better than the male option. You know, almost hammering so hard that we want women in certain places of power just because they're a woman. I understand representation is important, but what I'm saying, and again, like so many of these issues, you know, become so clouded that it's easy to like there's been so much double talk on all of these issues for decades, and so many arguments have been made in bad faith that any argument you make could be construed in some other way. I am not saying that representation is not important. I think Barack Obama, as our first Black president, even though he wasn't progressive at all and just widened the wealth inequality gap and was a lie in action, seeing a Black president, I think, you know, having a president that was Black was so important for younger generations to see. And grow up with the knowledge that yeah, Black people can be president. Like, and I think that that's partially why millennials are so progressive to begin with, is just because we had that. We had this president who had this progressive soaring rhetoric, even though his actions were different, and he at least seemed in words to embody compassion and progressive ideals and the idea that we're all equal, that we can all that we all are deserving of respect and dignity, all of that. But then on the other hand, like in moments like this, I think that like media is really pushing this narrative that we want a woman in the office because Bernie Sanders is the most obvious choice for vice president. Like if the vice presidential pick is supposed to build coalitions, it is just, it couldn't be more clear that Bernie Sanders would be the logical choice. I mean, again, like I said, his delegate, he has the next highest delegate count by far. His base of support remains steady in every state. He always got 30% of the vote. Like that is very clear. And I think right now that we need a woman argument is being used to hurt the progressive cause. It's pretending like it's the most progressive thing possible, that, well, we want a woman, we need to see a woman. But it's like, you know, it's not radical. Again, like, let's stop conforming to their narratives. You know, like we know logically it's not radical to have it's not a crazy thing to do to put a woman in power. Like we know women are just as talented, just as smart, just as capable, if not more so, IMHO, than men. Okay, as men, we are just as good, if no better. Though I would say that women sometimes do their work even better than men because we are subjected to a double standard, and we have to do twice as well to get even just half of the credit. So again, yeah, that's why, like, long story long, beware that of just painting people in black and white just because she's a woman means that she would be great for the job. What does she stand for? What is her history? What is her record? When she had opportunities to stand with the people or with corporations, what did she do? Again, this is why I warn against the idea that our fight is between the right and the left. The fight is between the wealthy and the non-wealthy, okay? And these right-left battles confuse us a lot because, like, you know, this argument for all intents and purposes is like a progressive argument. We want a woman to be president. We can't just have an old white male. Again, making it seem like what you look like or what you identify as is the whole of your worth. Not, it couldn't possibly be what you believe, couldn't be what you stand for, couldn't be the actions you've taken throughout your life to and what your worldview is. No. It's just, are you a woman? Okay, then we want you. It doesn't matter what you stand for. You could be a person that takes a lot of corporate money. You could be completely corrupt. You could have worked your entire, like, the hallmark of your career could be compromising with Republicans to pass Republican legislation. But if you're a woman, we want you as the vice president. So I'm basically just cautioning us to be aware of that identity shouldn't matter, that policy comes before all things, and that if we were living in a logical world where people didn't argue in bad faith, the obvious choice for vice president would be Bernie Sanders. And that's who I want.